Hello and welcome to the Fire Emblem 4 Kings tier list maker. So, I tried recording this video a few times already, and it's a little bit difficult to tier 4 Kings units in my experience because the cast is very weirdly developed. Most of the units serve a specific purpose. Some are clearly designed to serve a specific purpose but fail at it, and some are just completely useless. So I'm going to actually change these tier names and try to explain what my process is going to be for this video. So S tier isn't really S tier because the units, while they're good, aren't really considered great in Fire Emblem terms. So I'm going to actually call this tier Broken tier because they break the game. An A tier is going to be called Potentially Broken, because if they get good level ups or if you use certain stat boosters on them, they are potentially broken. B is going to be Puzzle Piece tier. These units serve one purpose and one purpose only. Passing butter, killing certain types of units, you get the picture. C tier is going to just be potentially worthless. They could be good if you're lucky, but most of the time they are designed to serve a purpose that they just fail at. And D tier is this some kind of twisted joke. These are the units that you're confused as to why they exist in the game. So we're going to go by recruitment order. First up is Walter. This list is all in alphabetical order for some reason, but we're going to do recruitment order. So Walter, what does he have going for him? He's the main character of the game. He has pretty high strength, pretty high defense, and pretty high growth in those areas. He has a personal weapon called the Glaive, which cuts down armored units and, more importantly, is effective against mounted units. And his promotion is not bad. Mostly he's a good tank in the early game, and if he gets average level ups, he becomes a pretty solid tank through the mid to late game. Not as good as other tanks that exist solely to be tanks, we'll get to them later, but he is not bad. His best weapons are going to be Tomahawk and Brave Axe. Don't bother giving him a bow when he promotes. He's going to be in potentially broken tier. Lionel. Lionel's over here. Lionel has swords, and his personal weapon, the saber, is effective against sword units. So you get a Lance Weaver pretty early on. So Lionel's specialty is basically covering the weapons triangle. That's his niche. He has high speed, high skill, high resistance, and decent magic, but high magic growth, and also he gets a big magic bonus on promotion. His personal weapon that he gets on promotion is a sword that gives him pass, which isn't great, because Lionel's a little too frail to put behind enemy lines, but in woods he can dodge pretty reliably. Gets like a 30 to 40% chance to get hit in the late game while standing in woods. If he dies, it's game over, so maybe don't do that. I think Lionel is firmly in potentially broken tier, but there's going to be a few units between them later. Next is Zachary. Zachary is the mysterious masked man. His personal weapon is Restrainer, cuts HP in half. Zachary has no magic, no resistance, so his only weapon is swords, and he can double with magic swords, but he's not gonna really do a lot of damage with them. So giving him magic swords in the mid game is kind of worthless, but maybe in the early game he can do well. I've seen some people talk about giving him an angelic robe so that he can tank a bolting hit. That sounds like a really big waste of an angelic robe, because you ideally want to give extra HP to units with more resistance, or more defense, or more resistance. Basically, if someone has 30 HP and 10 resistance, they're going to take more hits than someone who has 30 HP and 0 resistance. Just math. Zachary's only real purpose in the early game is stealing. You don't want to waste his time setting up kills for your units, because it's better to just kill people outright and not have to deal with them later. I think Zachary is firmly in puzzle piece tier. From the early game to the late game, he's not a very useful character, but he's not as useless as most. Next we have Bradley. Bradley is often hyped as a really good unit because of Sonian, because of his strength. Problem is, he has a 20% speed growth as a cavalier, 15% resistance growth. The 2 to 3 range of his weapon is not really worth the inability to hit, inability to double, likelihood of getting doubled, etc., etc. But in the early game, he's useful for chipping down 1-2 range enemies like mages and such from a distance. I'm going to put him in puzzle piece here, but he's better than Zachary. Next we have Sean. Sean and Bradley come at the same turn. Chapter 1, turn 2. Sean is over here. Sean's personal weapon really demonstrates how useless some personal weapons can be in attack. He has a brave iron sword, essentially, called the Quick Blade. It has the same might as an iron sword, it's just brave. That's not impressive or good, and while it's okay for finishing off enemies in the early game, it really shines. It really shows like how bad he is as a unit towards the mid game when you're forced to use him, and only has going for him is speed and skill. He barely gets strength. I think he starts off with 5 strength, and his growth in strength is 25. He has higher magic growth of 35 and the same magic base. So ideally, you want to swap from the Quick Blade to like a light brand with him, just so you can do distance damage, and even then he's probably just going to be chipping, not actually killing things. Sean is going to be in is there some kind of twisted joke tier, because magic weapons have very low durability, and there are better magic weapon users than Sean, by far. Yeah, next we have Chase. Chase, his gimmick is that he sometimes crits with his personal tome. His personal tome is basically thunder with killing edge level crit. And you can boost his critical hit chances with supports. I think if you build up all of his supports to B, he gets like a 60% chance-ish to crit with his Spark Tome. 60 isn't 100. So, yeah. Chase is unfortunately in Twisted Joke tier. Actually, I'm going to put him in potentially worthless. Chase's best bet for becoming reliable long-term is to promote to Mage Knight, so that you can use him as a staff bot. Chase's base magic is 7, and his growth in magic is 45, so by level 10, Chase should have, like, he starts off at level 3, so maybe 12 magic if you're lucky. And when he promotes, he'll gain an extra... Let me check. Extra 2 magic. So he's a decent physic user, potentially, if you get his staff level up a couple times. Yeah. Potentially worthless, I think is fair for him. Next we have Lydia. Lydia is your main staff bot. Her personal weapon is Sleep. She gets 10 uses and it can't be repaired. But you're not going to really use Sleep that much, except in very emergency circumstances. Her main benefit is that she's good at using sleeves. Her magic base is 10. Her growth in magic is 55, so she starts at level 2 and is likely to get up to 15 magic by the time she's ready to promote. And then she gains an extra 2 magic from promoting. So she can easily be a good physic user for the early to mid game, and believe me, you're going to need a good physic user. That being said, it's not guaranteed that she's going to get good levels. She can get really bad ones, and still, though, I think promoting her to Bishop is the best path towards getting her broken. But she is potentially broken between Walter and Lionel in usefulness. Next we have Shelby. Shelby is a shaman, or shaman, whatever. His special weapon is a Munio. It's a dark tome that gives him plus 10 resistance and plus 10 defense. So how do you use Shelby? You use him as a face tank. Yes, your mage is a face tank. And Shelby's bases in defense and resistance are relatively high at 8. And his growths in those areas are both 55%, which is better than his potential in magic or anything else. He's a bit slow, so he'll get doubled a lot, but usually he'll take like 0 to 5 damage per attack. When he promotes, he becomes a summoner and can summon phantoms where he becomes super broken. You can't complete the game without Shelby. I'm pretty sure, at least. He is in broken tier. Next we have Eufan. Eufan is here. Eufan is kind of useless. His personal weapon is Dark Light. It's a light tome that deals 10 damage to Eufan whenever he uses it. Why would you want to do that? Basically ties a healer to Eufan at all times, that he can do a little bit of extra damage for no real reason. But when he promotes, he becomes a warlock and can use dark magic, so technically you could give him Nosferatu, use Darklight on turn 1, use Nosferatu on turn 2, use Darklight on turn 3, Nosferatu on turn 4, etc., etc. But this is unreliable and not recommended. The alternative is tying a healer to him at all times, and like, why? Why would you use 2 deployment slots for 1 unit? Eufan is this some kind of twisted joke? I would say that he's worse than Sean. Ava. Ava is a 6-move unpromoted archer that you get with high stats. In fact, her growth total is 355, so she's one of the higher growth units in the hack. I think only Walter is better than her in terms of growths. Actually, no, there are a couple of other high ones, but it's not really about her growth anyway. It's about her bases. 12 skill, 11 speed. It's better than most of the units you get by Chapter 3, which is when you get Ava. Her Mystic Bow hits on resistance, which is incredibly useful for fighting the tankier enemies around, like zero move knights that clog up choke points in this hack. That being said, given her high growths, 60 skill, 60 luck, 50 res, she's good at critting mages, or at least killing them in one round. I'm kind of debating internally whether to put her in broken or potentially broken, but I think she's potentially broken, because she really relies on good level ups. Get in front of Walter, please. Okay, that works. She's better than Walter. Next meme is Max. We have him over here. Max is a mercenary, and mercenaries are usually pretty good in Fire Emblem games. Max is no exception. He has decent strength growth, high skill growth, which is really important in this hack since it really does not spare you skill. He starts off with high skill, high speed, high strength, C in swords, and his personal weapon is the claymore. It ignores counterattacks, which is very useful for dealing with all kinds of major threatening enemies in this hack, especially mages, which are pretty dangerous, and boss enemies. He's pretty good at boss killing. Max is just a handy dude to have around, and he's a really good candidate for early promotion because Hero Crest will give him the opportunity to promote into hero. You can slap a hand axe on him, and he'll go to town. He's not bad at tanking either. Give him a dragon shield, give him an angelic robe. He's one of the better candidates for both of those items. I'm gonna stop him in potentially broken because he does require investment to get good. I'd say that he's more versatile than Ava. Next we have Sally. Sally is the only trainee unit in the game. She's a pupil. Her personal weapon is a, if I remember correctly, 15 might, 120 hit tome called Aquas. And it basically just exists to get reliable hits. Yeah, the best use for it would be to chip an enemy down and then use Sally to finish off an enemy and gain a level's worth of experience, which will get her from 1 to 10 pretty quickly. She'll promote from pupil to mage, unlock light and dark magic. You probably don't want to use those because Aquas is going to be more reliable than that. Get her to sage as quickly as you can, and now she can use staves. She's probably not going to get past D in staves, maybe she'll get to C, but she's pretty handy throughout the entire hack. The thing is, she relies a lot on her growths, being a pupil. 70 magic, 70 skill, 60 luck. She doesn't really need more skill because of Aquas being so accurate. It could be handy if you want to use other spells with her, but you don't really need to. Just give her a body ring if you want to make her decent. I'm gonna stick her in potentially broken. I'd say that she's better than Walter. Sadly. Next is Marcy. Marcy's kind of a silly unit. Her lance, the ward lance, gives her extra resistance and is effective against mages. The very first time this comes in handy is the chapter after you get her, which is chapter 6. You can turn one a bolting mage. Yes, there's a bolting mage in chapter 6 of this hack. And one round the mage, so you don't have to deal with bolting on your starting position anymore. And she's really good at killing mages, but that's about it, because her strength is bad. She gets a 25 strength growth, and her base strength is 4, I believe. Just double checking that. Yes, it is 4. I got lucky in my playthrough and got strength a few times on her, but you don't want to give her a regular lance. Just let her use ward lance. It uses magic to determine its power anyway, and she gets better magic growth than strength. I think her magic growth is 40, which is not bad for this hack. That being said, literally the only thing she can do is kill mages, and I guess rescue drop utility as well. She's a puzzle piece. I'm thinking that she's not as useful as Bradley. Actually, I'm gonna say that Bradley is less useful than her because Bradley falls off really fast with his 3 range. Marcy is always pretty useful for killing mages, or at least doing a lot of damage to them. Next we have Dorian. You recruit Dorian by talking to him with Lydia. Chapter 5. Dorian is the refresher. He's the dancer. He's the heron. He's the bard. He's the guy. He's the motivator. He makes your units take another turn. It's really good that he appears so early in the hack. Strangely, he has really high defense and resistance growth, which makes him kind of a tank until he starts getting doubled by enemies, which is relatively soon after you get him. I'm tempted to put him in broken tier, because he makes your units go again. And since there are so few units that are worth using, being able to use them twice is just really solid. Next we have Zoe. Zoe is a troubadour. She's fine. She has low magic. Her utility and healing is not great. You should probably just promote her last, really late into the game, so that she doesn't get berserked, because when she promotes she'll be able to use swords. And being able to attack makes her a prime target for berserk staff users, which are scattered throughout the hack. It's better to just have her available to restore stuff than it is to have her do healing, which is a bit bizarre. Her personal weapon is hammering, which makes her useful for repairing other people's personal weapons. She gets another personal weapon later in the game, which I'm not going to spoil, but is not bad. So yeah, she's not going to be able to use it for long, but it's useful. She is in puzzle piece tier. I'm going to stick her. She's definitely better than Zachary. I'm just wondering if she's better than Bradley. I'm going to say that she's not. You can tell me how wrong I am in the comments below. Next we have Vin. Vin is over here. Vin's gimmick, he uses a weapon called the Man Gauche. It's a sword that gives him plus 100 or void, but it can't crit. He's a Myrmidon, by the way. A Myrmidon that can't crit, with his personal weapon anyway. You could give him a regular weapon, like an Iron Sword or a Killing Edge, but you should probably have someone handy to trade up the Man Gauche if he's going to be exposed to enemies during enemy phase. Because chances are pretty good that he will die in enemy phase if he takes more than 2 hits, or more than 1 even. He's a pretty flimsy dude. He really needs to dodge in order to survive. That being said, Vin's main utility is in pulling enemies towards him so that he can be surrounded by enemies, and then the rest of your units can player phase those enemies. You need Vin to progress through the game. I can't imagine playing this hack without Vin. Vin is in broken tier. In front of Shelby. Next is Cielo. Cielo appears in Chapter 7. He's here. He's a nomad, so he gets bows. On promotion, he gets to use the swords. His personal weapon is called Sky Shot. It's a 4-range bow. Not 2 to 4, not 3 or 4, just 4. Exactly 4 squares away. So that's quite a meme. And the ROM hack creator balanced Cielo so that he can, on turn 1 of Chapter 7, kill a ballista archer in 1 round. Thing is, he has to hit 11 damage twice to take out a 22 HP archer, and he has like an 81-82% chance to hit. So you have a pretty good chance of missing one of the hits, and a not as good chance of missing both. That's kind of a meme. You see immediately how useless Cielo is at being reliable in a hack that really punishes unreliable units. Whether Cielo is a puzzle piece or potentially worthless really depends on the levels that you get on him. He comes in pretty handy in 1 chapter later on, where you have to fight a ton of wyverns, and shooting them out of the sky is nice, but he's not good. I'm gonna put him in potentially worthless, not as good as Chase. Next we have Victor. Victor's over here. Victor's gimmick is that he has an axe called the Vuj, which is the new translation, relatively new translation of the Puji from Thracia, 776. So he basically has a meme axe, which lets him crit from 1-2 range. Kind of like Chase, his critting is unreliable, because you can't really be certain that you're going to crit. And the difference between critting and not critting with Victor is that Victor can't take a darn hit without dying. He's got a lot of HP, but basically no defense or resistance. Why? Who knows? Victor is in potentially a worthless tier behind Chase. Next we have Ron. Ron is a soldier from Behanzin, sorta. His personal weapon is the Justice Pike. So, playable soldiers are always kind of a meme in Fire Emblem because how bad they are generally. His Justice Pike ignores defense, but has like 65 hit, so good luck hitting with Ron. The very first enemy unit that you can fight with Ron can't even be one-rounded by him, and he only gets worse from there. What else is there to say about Ron? He's basically a waste of a hero crest. It would be better to just, like, Chapter 7, you visit a village and the NPC will give you a hero crest and say, use it on Ron, you should use it on Ron. No, don't. That's a pitfall. Don't do that. Don't promote Ron early. In fact, don't even promote Ron if you can help it. Actually, Ron is one of the few units that, if they die, nothing of value is lost. Twisted joke. Worst unit in the hack, I'm pretty sure. Right then, next is Locris. Locris is a wyvern rider who starts with a personal weapon called Tempest, which is effective against flyers. Later on, he gets another personal weapon, Quake, which is effective against cavalry. Locris is not good because even though he can kill flying units, he can only take 1 hit from flying units at most, at which point he dies, usually on the 2nd hit. Luckily, his speed is good enough that he's not going to get doubled often. I mean, his growth is 25% in speed, but his base speed is 7. Never mind. Actually, he might get doubled more than I thought he would. Well, that sucks. Locris is kind of bad, but he's like really useful for killing flyers, just 1 at a time. I'm gonna put him in the bottom of puzzle piece tier, because that's what he is. I guess late in the game you can also use him to kill cavalry, but Walter's better at that. Actually, a lot of units are. Lionel's good at it with the Zambato. So is Max. Give Max a halberd. You can use that at level 2. There's so many units that can kill cavalry, you don't need Locris to do that. And there's so many units that can kill flyers, you don't need Locris to do that. He's just a puzzle piece, a really bad one. Next we get Colt. Colt, his personal weapon as an axe cavalier is a 20 weight, 20 might axe. So what do you do with this axe? Well, you do a bunch of damage to a unit and maybe kill it if you can, probably after chipping them down with a bow. Or you swing it at someone and take 2 hits from them, most likely. Or you hit someone that can't counter with attack, like an archer or sniper. Yeah. Colt's promotion is Emerald Knight, so we can use bows in addition to axes. If you insist on using Colt, use his personal weapon to get him a few kills, level him up a couple times, promote him, and then use him to chip with bows because he has pretty high skill. His base skill is 15 and he has 50% growth, so his best use is going to be giving him a short bow, since short bows are brave in this hack. Basically use him as a nomad. He's going to be in the top of potentially worthless. Next we have Hoff. You get Hoff at the same time as Colt. They're on opposite sides of the map and they can't work together. So that's neat. Hoff gets a 1-3 range axe, which is neat. He's relatively slow, so he's not going to double with it often. He does get to use bows as a general. Generals in this hack use all the physical weapons. Being able to use bows is okay. He's going to be best with a short bow or a brave bow if you use him long enough. To get him to the point where he's going to be using brave bows, I suggest that you don't, because as a general, Hoff can take maybe 2 hits before dying. Yeah, so kind of a meme. I would say that he's better than Colt, but he doesn't really have widespread use as a puzzle piece. Right, so next we have Cindy. Cindy is a bow knight, so armored unit with a bow. Her personal weapon, reflex bow, is a 1-2 range bow. Pretty simplistic. Although I didn't use Cindy much in my Let's Play, besides when I had to, I'd say that she is in potentially broken territory because she has pretty high skill, pretty high strength, and pretty good growth in those areas. 40 strength and 50 skill. She doesn't really fit in as a puzzle piece like the other units. She's just kind of forgettable because she's not really good as an archer, but she's not as bad as Cielo is. I'm gonna stick her right behind Lionel and potentially broken. If you use her enough, she'll probably turn out okay, but I don't think she can keep up with the rest of this crew here. So, yeah, next we have Regis. Regis is a very slow sage with pretty high magic potential. He has a siege tome as his personal weapon, Maelstrom, which I think, if I remember correctly, has 3 to 15 range. Thing is, he is so slow that he can't double with it, of course, and he can't really avoid getting doubled, so you don't really want to use him in combat much. Using siege tomes with him is okay, but mostly he's good at using silence, berserk, and restore in the mid game, where you are just flooded with status staff users. He's definitely a puzzle piece. I'd say that he's more useful than Zachary. Next we have Wilson. Wilson is an archer that you get on Walter's routes. He has a personal weapon called the Gatling Bow, which is somewhere between short bow and brave bow in terms of strength, and he has the ability to the weapon has a brave effect on it, so it's going to hit either twice or 4 times depending. He has high speed growth, he has high strength growth, high skill growth, and pretty much everyone in this hack that has high growth in a stat also has high bases in it. I don't know why, but that's how it is. Wilson's pretty broken. I would say that he's more broken than Dorian, but not as broken as the required units. He's not required in the same way that Shelby and Vin are, but you'd be at a great loss without him, so make sure to get him and keep him alive. Next we have Terry, the pirate. Terry's a weird pirate. He's got high resistance. He's got a 1-2 range axe called the Bow Breaker, which gives him avoid against bow users, and it is effective against bow users. So this hack loves a couple things. It loves to throw archer hallways at you, which are like one tile wide paths with archers on either side, or snipers more likely on either side. Sometimes mages are mixed in as well. Terry is the best unit you can throw at that kind of formation. Just let him dodge bow attacks and have him retaliate with a bow breaker. He can also kill mages, like I said. Considering that he's better than his personal weapon alone, I'm going to put him in potentially broken tier. Yeah, he's not as broken as these guys, but I think he's more broken than Max, so potentially broken. Right then, so next meme here is Harriet. Harriet is a hero that you get pre-promoted. Her personal weapon is Lady Blade, which is effective against axe users, not axes. I made a mistake of thinking that in my Let's Play, and tried to use her against a hero with a killer axe. It doesn't work that way. She's kind of useful in the mid-game. Falls off right afterward, which is a shame because as a character she's moderately interesting. As a unit, she's not. She struggles against bandits, and she is not very good. Her stats, her strengths are in luck. Yeah, she has good luck. She starts off with high base strength at least, but and high base speed as well. But her only growth potential is in luck, and doesn't really cut it. When you have you get 3 Hoplin guards in this hack, by the way. So yeah, she's in puzzle piece tier behind Locris. Next person you get is Patty. You get her in the same chapter as Harriet, actually. She's Marcy's sister, and she's much, much, much more useless than her. Her personal weapon is the Shield Lance. Gives her extra defense, and it's effective against knights. Yeah, it's one of those things. at 10 strength with a 35% strength growth. She has okay potential as a combat unit, but problem is she is very bad. Very bad indeed. I would put her in Twisted Joke tier. I think that she's not as bad as Cielo, but she's definitely better than Sean. Right then, so Candace. Candace is a sword master. Her personal weapon is the Floret. It grants +5 attack and attack speed to all adjacent units, which has benefits and drawbacks, right? Because it's really pretty solid bonus to adjacent units, but then using her you have to worry about adjacency, and it can be really hard to maneuver her into the right place in certain maps, especially when a lot of her mid-game maps are kind of open, and it's hard to just put her behind someone that you want to boost. Because ideally we want someone... Well, this doesn't apply so much to the mid-game, but in the late game, you want to use your deployment slots on people who can fight in their own right. Candace is not a bad fighter on her own, but she relies heavily on getting crits. That may or may not happen. And yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say about her. She has high skill, which is nice. I think that she's in the potentially broken tier, and I would stick her in front of Lionel in terms of effectiveness. They're both kind of the same unit by the time the late game appears, except Lionel doesn't boost allies around him. The only difference is you have to use Lionel and you don't have to use Candace. So, yeah, you can use both of them as essentially two sword masters. But, like, there are better units than Candace to deploy when you already have Lionel. Especially if you're using her to support people, you could just use people with supports, like actual supports, like Max Sally or something. Or other units that support each other. Anywho, next, Jack. Jack is a warrior. He gets a lot of HP and a disappointing amount of defense. So, yeah, he's not good at taking a hit. He's kind of like Victor in that regard, where he's like got a lot of HP, but it's going to go away really quickly. His personal weapon is a hurl bat, which is a 1-2 range axe that never misses. But thing is, Jack's skill is 20 at base, and his growth in skill is is it again 40%. So he's not going to do that badly with other weapons. He doesn't really need to hurl that in the way that other units need more accurate weapons. But it's handy in a few edge cases, like killing the Swordmaster boss in his joint chapter. It's just hard to justify using him past the mid game when you don't have to use him anymore. I'm gonna call him potentially worthless. I think he's better than Hoff. Righto, so Jeremy. Jeremy's a really badly designed unit, because he gets the rewarp staff, which allows him to warp himself to other places. Thing is though, his magic is 12, so his rewarp range is 6. He also has 6 range with stabs like Physic, Silence, and Berserk, which he's not going to do anything with that. The way that you use rewarp, like, you can't do anything with the rewarp staff because with only 12 magic you can't really fight. What he has going for him is high skill, but again, he can't fight. Jeez, he's just so bad. Like, his existence and his hack is completely superfluous. That's kind of... he's just a joke. A twisted joke. Jeremy is married to Sarah, but unlike Pent and Luis, they don't start with any supports. So, Jeremy would rank a lot higher if he supported with Sarah here. But since Sarah doesn't have any supports with Jeremy, you can't like rewarp Jeremy into support range and have Sarah fight. Like, there's nothing you can do without building up their supports for 3 chapters, and it's not worth the effort to try that. Sarah is let's see, yeah, her class is called Lady Knight. You can use lances and bows. So you basically like promoted Colt, except lances instead of axes. What else is there to say about her? Her personal weapon is the Pursuer. It does extra damage for every tile that she moves. 2 extra damage. So you're probably thinking, great, move her maximum range and attack, right? Wrong. Because Sarah's weakness is her defense is 8. Her resistance is 8. Her HP is 33. Her growths in HP, she gets a 60% HP growth. Wonderful. Her growths in defense and resistance are 10%. Yes, so she's one of the flimsiest characters in the game. Why would you use her? Don't know. I can't think of a use for her. She's better than Jeremy, but not by much. You could use her to chip with a bow, but there are better bow users, and you're limited in the equipment that you can buy. There are better units than Sarah. Next character you get is Alicia and Elias. You get pretty much at the same time. We'll start with Alicia. Alicia is a sage. She is Max's wife and Sally's mother. She uses light magic the best. Her personal weapon is a light tome called Canticle. It ignores counterattacks. So it's basically a 1-2 range of Max's weapon, which is really good because ignoring counters is pretty important in this hack. Almost as important as being able to double or quadruple. She's also a good staff bot. I'd rank her potentially broken, I think. She's not really a puzzle piece because she's pretty flexible. Problem is you get her late game, so she only really makes the late game easier. I'd say that she's... well, it doesn't really matter whether she's better or worse than Max. She's about the same as Max. Elias, a sniper. His weapon is the hunter's bow, or hunting bow. I forgot what it's called exactly. Whatever. It's a bow. It gives Canto plus, so he can attack, and then he can move with his remaining range. How do you use this? You clog up a choke point with one of your tanky units. You have Elias step behind that tanky unit, shoot at an enemy in front of the tanky unit, and then pull back so that you don't get hit in enemy phase. Elias is kind of flimsy. You don't want him to take attacks. If you use him, you should have Alicia, Sally, and Max close by since they all support each other. Elias is Sally's older brother. Alicia's son, Max's son. As a bow user, he's probably not as good as Ava, but better than Cindy. Next we get Nicole. Nicole, her class is Queen. She's basically a troubadour that can also use light magic. Her personal weapon is the rescue staff. Doesn't really get a lot of use in this hack. I used it exactly once in my Let's Play for a very specific strategy, and it was to pull off a heist for a white gem. Honestly, in retrospect, getting the white gem was kind of a waste of time. I didn't really need all the funds that I got at the end of the game. Nicole is, I guess, fine if you let one of your healers die and you need a new one. But I think her magic is like, yeah, it's 12, so it's kind of like Jeremy. She's basically a promoted Jeremy, or mounted Jeremy rather, since Jeremy's a bishop. Nicole is a queen with a horse. She's a little bit better than him. Yay. Next we have Gideon. He's a druid with personal weapon is Nocturne. It's a brave dark tome with pretty high might. I forgot exactly how much. Doesn't really matter. He has an A in dark tomes, so stick to using dark tomes until he gets to S, and then you have extra crit, extra hit with dark tomes. Wonderful. You can also use anima, but why would you want to? And he can also use staves. He starts with the unlock staff, which is nice. You can use it in his join chapter to do some stuff. He's the only way to get the silver card. I would say that Gideon is potentially broken. To do some cleaning up later. After Gideon, you get Lucille. She's a Falcon Knight. She is the mother to Marcy and Patty. Her personal weapon is a sword that gives her renewal, so she restores 30% of her HP every turn. Her max HP is 40, so she'll be restoring like 13 to 14 HP every turn. I don't remember if it comes up or down. Oh wait. Her max HP is actually 28. Wait, no. It's 40. Never mind. I was reading the wrong line. Okay. I thought I was correct. Yeah, 40. So 13 to 14 HP every turn. But the thing is, her defense is low at 10. Resistance is also 10. Why would you want to let her get hit? You get her so late in the game that enemies that can attack her are going to be really powerful. And while she might not get doubled, she'll definitely lose more than 13 to 14 HP every hit that she takes. But yet on that, she has an ability that essentially is made for tanks, and she isn't one. So, like, I don't know, she's definitely worthless, just a matter of how worthless. She's better than her daughter, better than Cielo, better than Victor, better than Chase, better than Colt. Yeah, I'd put her at the top tier, top part of potentially worthless. Good job, Lucille. Next we get Emily. Emily is the Est of the hack. She starts off as a level 3 armor knight. That said, if you raise her to level 10 or more and promote her, she'll become a master knight. Get a mount, get the ability to use all physical weapons. I used her in my Let's Play because I stopped caring and decided to play a prank on myself. I ended up getting a perfect level up with her, and I had to use her because of that. That being said, Emily is not good. For efficient play, she's just bland. Ron is still worse than her, though. After Emily, you get Terrell. Terrell is his class is King of Askia, and it's basically an Ephraim infantry lance user. He has 18 in every stat at base, except for magic, which is 0. And his growths in each stat are 50%, so he's like supposed to be flexible, I guess. He gives some sort of minor bonus to units within 3 tiles. I forget what it was, because it's so inconsequential. I would say that he's better than Lucille, but the only reason that you use him is because he's force deployed, and even then, you want to keep him in the back lines because he's more of a liability than anything else. Last but not least, we have Marvin. Marvin is a berserker. He's got really, really high base strength and really, really high base speed, and his growths in those areas are okay. Problem is, he has low skill. So, what do? Well, he also has low luck. So, you can buy secret books and goddess icons from the armory for 1,000 each. And while I wouldn't recommend this for any other unit on this tier list, because a secret book just increases your hit by 4, and a goddess icon barely does anything for your hit. I guess it would increase it by 1%. It's worth doing it for Marvin, potentially, if you're like stat screwed. If you have a really bad Walter, or a really bad Terry, or a really bad Max, or a really bad any other unit that you just want to replace with Marvin, you could do that. But you probably want to buy weapons, like brave weapons for the rest of the game, and spend most of your money on those to like beat the game. But he is potentially broken, so I'm gonna put him here. Because you can increase his hit rate and crit rate pretty highly and go to town with significant gold investment. Which is why if he didn't have to pay the gold, he'd be up here, but since you do have to pay the gold, he's down here. That's all that is. Now some adjustments and reconsiderations. Candace is kind of a puzzle piece. One of the best ones you have, but having to worry about adjacency a lot in a hack where you often have to split up, kind of a pain in the butt. Next we have Elias. I think his ability is a little too niche to use reliably. I guess if you give him a Swift Soul, he's better at using his Cancel Plus bow, but I think better candidates for the Swift Soul are Candace or Dorian. I personally gave mine to Dorian. Yeah. Let me just review Cindy's growths again, just to see how good she actually is. 50 skill, 40 strength. Yeah, I'm gonna keep her where she is. It's probably wrong, but whatever. As a final note, a lot of the characters in this hack are very, very reliant on good growths. Like, the potentially broken units require high growth or certain usage situations to be used effectively. But like, even the broken units can be bad if they don't get good growths, and puzzle piece units can easily fall down a tier if they don't get to like their average growths. It's just a fact of life in this hack with its really weird stat configurations. It was hard enough to tier these units as it is. I'm gonna call it good. I've been recording for almost exactly an hour, so yeah. Like and subscribe if you liked it. Dislike the video if you think I should have tiered something different, and make sure to complain in the comments below about how wrong I am. So, thank you all for watching, and have a good one.